Today on Pappa's Projects, we are running 5 mini splits right now. This is the inside of this wall right here on my east facing wall. This is upstairs in the master bedroom, which is on this east facing wall. And we have an air conditioner on this room right here. And then we have one upstairs running. And we have one in the garage running. And we're being able to do all that. And all these panels over here have no sun on them yet. So we're not even producing any electricity. We have some up here that aren't getting sun yet. So we're producing all that power off of these 6 solar panels. We have 16 solar panels up there. We have 12 solar panels on that back wall. And we have 14 solar panels right here that get the early morning sun. And on top of that, we're running our pool pump over here. Now, this time of the year, running these mini splits, they're 120 volt, 12,000 BTU, 1 ton mini splits. They will use right now they're using around 800-900 watts. As it gets hot out and gets into the high 80s, 90s, they'll start going up. I'd say in the 80s, from the 70s to the 80s, they'll go up 100 watts. And then from the 90s to 100, they'll go up another 100 watts. And then when you go from 100 to 110, they'll go up another 100 watts. And then from 100 to 110 to 120, they'll go up another 100 watts. So depending on the temperature outside, depends on how many watts this thing will use. And later on, when the sun starts beating on these for just a very short period of time, they'll go up to about 1100 watts. And then as soon as the sun's no longer hitting it, they'll drop back down to about 800-900 watts. Now this pool pump I'm running right now, it's a variable speed jacuzzi, and this is auto sensing on the voltage. So whether you wire it up with 120 or 220, 230 or 208, it's going to sense it. So this thing right now, I'm running this on my pool at 1200 RPMs, and it's using less than 200 watts. Now if I fire this thing up to 2800 RPMs, it's going to use right around 1000 watts. Now, in order to be able to run these heat pumps, you're going to need about 1500 watts in panels, 1500 to 2000. You can do it off of 15, but you'd be better off with 2000 watts in panels. So if you have 6 250 watt panels, polys, you could run one of these mini splits. And because, like I said, later on in the day, even when it's 110 to 120 degrees, it's probably going to be around 1200 watts. You're going to be kind of touching really close to the max on 6 panels, but on 8 panels, you should be fine. So up here, like I said, we have 14 panels. So we're basically running 2 mini splits off of that. We have these 12 panels back here and some panels up on top here, on top of this pergola. But those really aren't getting a lot of sun. But that back wall, even you can see, those are 6 in series. So you got 2, 4, 5 in the sun and 1's in the shade. You got 2, 3 in the shade and 3 in the sun. So you're not really producing a lot off these panels on this back wall because they're in series. Now, if they were in parallel, you'd be producing off each panel, but when they're in series, you're not really producing a lot of power when one or two of them are in the shade. So then we have these 16 panels over here that are in direct sun, and we have this over here, this 8 panels that are in direct sun that are running the 5 mini splits and that pool pump right now. So later on in the day, actually we can see right now the sun's starting to hit on top of this shed of the 6. These are mono panels, mono and mono. Those are the only 12 mono panels I have. Everything else is poly. As we start getting on these mono panels, those only need 1 panel and they only need partial. So as the sun starts hitting on those, they really start producing. Those 6 panels right there can produce around 50 amps to charge my batteries. These over here, these 8 panels over here on these polys, in full direct sun, they'll get up to maybe 50 amps. So I've got 8 panels here that produce less than these monos over here that is only 6. So this kind of gives you an indication. That's how much room you kind of need to have 8 panels right there. That's 2,000 watts to be able to run one of those 1-ton mini splits. And you can pretty much run that all day long. If these things are in the sun, from the time the sun rises to the time the sun sets, you can run these things. On Arizona, you can run them 12 hours right now, because the sun's up almost 13 hours a day. So I can keep this cool. We ran our mini splits all day yesterday, got up to almost 90 degrees. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I turned on the upstairs main air conditioner for about 15 minutes. And that's all we ran our air conditioner, our main air conditioners that are 220 volts that came with the house, just for like 15 minutes last night in the middle of the night. That was it. So everything else was off the grid, and we didn't get charged a penny for that because we produced our own electricity. The landscaping out here is really starting to look good. We call this our resort. But if you want to run this this pool pump over here, you're going to be able, at max, have to be able to put out at least, I would say, 1,200 watts when this thing first fires up. So, and it's a variable speed, so you can fire this thing up. It's always going to want to fire up at the highest RPMs, which is close to 2850, I believe. And you could immediately knock it down to whatever you want. I think it goes down to 700 or 800 RPMs. But I usually run mine, once I have my pool chlorinated, at around 1,200 RPMs all day. If I want to vacuum it, I have to knock it up to 2,800. But this right here, in order to run this variable speed pool pump, and when I bought this whole unit came together. It was the whole thing. And it was like, maybe three and a half years ago, it was like $900. And it's Bluetooth. So it's nice that I can control this thing. I can be in the garage plugging this in to my inverters, and I can control the RPMs from inside the garage, because this thing locks onto my wireless Wi-Fi. So on this, I would say you probably need about 6 of these 250 watt poly panels. If you're going to use mono, you might be able to get away maybe with 5. But when I buy my panels, I was buying them $33 to maybe $45 a piece on the polys, and they're all the same. There might be a few Canadian Solar, but the rest were pretty much all the same, but they're the same output pretty much even on the Canadian Solar. They're a nicer panel than the rest of them, but they pretty much have the same output when you wire them together. And you can use these things, 3 Canadian Solars and 3 of the other brand. They're an off-brand. They put a white label on these so you don't know who they are. But these are used panels that I'm using on this. And if you're talking about buying 4 of these panels, right now you might be able to catch them on sale because of the inflation of last year and a half. You might be able to catch these for 50 bucks a piece. So if you need 6 of those, you're gonna be about $300. And where I buy them from in Arizona, there's no tax on them. So you're $300 out the door for that. And if you bought this pump, you could probably get this pump now for about $800. You're talking $1,100 to have a variable speed pump, Bluetooth. You'd have to have the panels, and then you could buy one of those $700 2400 watt off-grid inverters that are 24 volt DC battery backup. So, you know, right around $2,000, you can put in a pool pump and you can run that thing all swimming season or all year long, and you don't have to pay any electricity. I remember before I replaced this, I had a 1 horsepower pump, and it was costing me a fortune to run this pump. I was running it 3 hours a day when I was supposed to be running it 8 to 10, because it was knocking that bill way up there, around $500 a month when I was running my ACs. These 2 main ACs in the middle of summer. So now I spend $0. This pool pump has paid itself off by using the solar to run it. And now it costs me nothing to run my pool pump. So I experimented putting these on this back wall just to see what they would do. And at this time of the year, they can put out quite a bit. I can run 4 mini splits off this at around 10 o'clock in the morning. And you're talking 5,000 watts. This is a 6,500 watt inverter. With the way this wires up on this one, you have to have 6 panels in series, another 6 panels in series, and then you parallel those together. And then you have another 6 panels in series, another 6 panels in series, parallel those together. So you only have 4 wires, 2 wires for each array running into your inverter. So you have 24 panels that are 250 watts. And these things will run 4 mini splits in a day. And those are used panels. So I think those panels back there, I only paid 30 bucks a piece for those. So for 24 panels, I paid $720 to run 4 mini splits. Now I had to buy that inverter. That was $1,500. And I had to put the wire and run that in there. So, and then I had to buy the 4 batteries for the backup. But actually on this one, these are 4 Walmart RV batteries. These are, they're not AGMs. They're just for like your boat or for a camper. They're deep cell. And I've been running those batteries for almost 2 years now. And for just being deep cycle batteries from Walmart, they do the job. Now I don't let them get below 48 volts. And at the end of the day, I'll stop using the inverter on this one at around 5 o'clock. I'll get sun to almost 7 p.m. Sometimes I'll go to 6 o'clock, depending on how much is left in my battery bank. But usually my battery bank's around 51 to 54 volts when I shut the breaker off on it overnight, so that when I get up the next morning, my battery bank's charged at 51, 52 volts. And so is my other 48 volt off-grid inverter. And then I just use my 24 watt inverters on that battery bank to run 2 freezers, a refrigerator, and the lights outside. And I'll use my Keurig coffee maker in the morning off of that as well. So pretty inexpensive. Even now with inflation, it's pretty inexpensive to do this. And your payoff time, you know, on my payoff time for that, if you had to go out and spend $2,000 on that pool pump, your payoff time at the rates we have out here, when it goes up to 16 cents a kilowatt hour, running your pool at 8 hours a day, you should be able to pay this thing off in about 2 to 3 years. And it's not costing you anything to run it after that. So, pretty nice investment, but it's off grid. Everything I have is off grid. If I go on grid, then they raise my rates and almost double my bill of what it is right now in the winter time. And my electricity bill would be $1,800 minimum for me to go solar. And this year, off-grid usage, supplementing and running my mini splits and pool pump and everything else and pool heaters, my bill probably going to be around $800. So staying off grid saves me $1,000 from going on grid. And my bill, the way they've raised the rates, 2 years ago was approaching $4,000. If I wouldn't have went solar, my bill for the same usage would have been around $6,000 to $6,500. Right now, if I was using this same amount without the mini splits and just using my main air conditioners and running my pool heater off of utility, it would be right around $6,000 a year for electricity. And with this off grid, it's supplementing quite a bit of my power usage, and it's going to be like maybe around $800 for the entire year. So it's less than $100 a month. It's like $75 a month on the average of what I'll be using. So it's easy to do. All this is DIY. We built all these pergolas. We installed all this stuff ourselves. We ran all the wire. We designed it, everything ourselves. And when we did it, we had never done any solar. We spent a year watching videos, reading articles on the internet and YouTube, and just watched how to hook things up, what to buy, how to start. And that's what I'm trying to do, is help people figure out, what do you need if you're looking at running certain things like this ceiling fan up here. I run these during the day. I could even run them at night, because even on high, I want to say they're only like 30 watts to run that. That light bulb on there, that's 8 watts to run this at night. And I've got another one down here, and this is 11 watts to run this. If I have all 3 of these lights on at night, this lights up this entire area with very bright white. And I don't even have to have this light on my porch or that light there. Now I also have all these lights hooked up here. I can't remember how many strings. I think I have like 10 or 12 strings, and they're 1 watt, 24 watts per string. And so you're talking at 24 watts per string times 10, that's only 240 watts to run those at night. That's not much. That's what my floodlights used to be for 2 light bulbs. And this will light up everything beautifully. You could have a wedding out here at night. So, you know, we'll get into wiring some of these panels pretty soon here. We're getting ready. We just built this array. We used to have a 6-panel array that tilted. It was on an axis, and it would tilt like this. So it was like this way for the sun in the morning, and then at noon, and then in the afternoon, we'd have it like that. But building this like this pretty much gives me a maximum amount of sun throughout the day, where I start getting sun on these panels. 7 o'clock in the morning, and they'll continue to get sun right now till about 6:30, 20 to 7. And then the peak of the summer, I'll be getting 14 hours, maybe 15 hours of sun out of these things. So I can run those mini splits quite a bit. Right now we have almost 2 of those 3 panels on this side in the sun. So we're already starting to produce probably 15 amps off of those 2 panels. Their max is like 8.9 amps per panel. So right now with that amount of sun, seeing what I've seen in the past, I'm probably producing 15 amps just off of those 2 panels. As were these over here, 2 panels, I might be producing 12. This was 3 times the cost of one of those panels. So I can buy 3 of those panels for every one of these. And these tend to, one of the things about the mono panels is some of the inverters don't like it. They end up giving me errors, and you gotta be really careful about the way you wire them. These poly panels, I've had no problem. On a 2400 watt inverter, I can hook up 3000 watts and I won't even get an error off that thing, because you'll never get 250 watts out of a 250 watt panel. I don't care what perfect conditions you have, you're never gonna get it, and you're not gonna get the max amps out of it either, which is like 8.71 or something. So I could probably even go up to 3500 watts in a 24 watt inverter, and it's still not gonna give me an error on those polys. But man, if I use this, 3 of these, I get so close at 30, almost 39 volts, hooking 3 of these up in series, it'll give me an error and shut down that inverter, because it'll cross over that 145 volts for a very short period of time in the day. And they do put out a decent amount more power, but for the errors I get, and not getting any errors on this, I'd rather go with the poly panels. So, and if I lose one, they're not that expensive to replace. These were $90 a piece. Right now, I'd probably have to pay about $150 or $160, as where I can still get these. These were about $30 to $46. I could probably get them for like $50, $55. So, a lot less money to put out. Anyways, it's a beautiful sunny day in Arizona. No clouds in the sky. I hope this helps you. Please like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell. And I hope you have a truly wonderful and blessed day.